Welcome to Two Therapists Talking. The hope for this podcast is to talk about important issues related to couples and individuals who are struggling in their lives with many different issues. I'm David Thompson, a marriage and family therapist.
And I'm Sherie Christensen, marriage and family therapist. Please join us as we explore these issues together, and we hope you will learn and be enlightened along the way. Come find us at twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.
Hi, and welcome back to Two Therapists Talking. I'm David.
And I'm Sherie.
And we want to continue talking about sexuality and healthy sexuality.
And especially about women's sexuality, because that is such a big issue we find in therapy, regardless of whether or not there is addiction or compulsive behaviors.
Right.
It is just a big, big topic. And so we talked last time about some of the aspects of women's sexuality and some of the history behind the development of this concept that women are not as sexual as men and why that has happened. And there's some other things with that we want to talk about. It is a more global thing that then impacts the sexual relationship or the sexuality of females.
Right. Kind of where culture has brought us to at this point in a lot of ways with women and sexuality.
Mm-hmm. And one of the big concepts we want to talk about is that there is this cultural and also religious space where the quote-unquote good woman doesn't have wants, needs, desires, ambitions, anything like that. And we're not talking just sexual, we're talking about altogether, right? That the ideal for a female, and again, this is starting to shift, but we're still seeing a lot of women in sessions, a lot of women in society that are holding on to these beliefs, and the cultural identity hasn't really finished shifting, especially if you're looking in very religious
right.
Groups.
And if it's that already just culturally, you can imagine sexually where they're at.
Yes. If you look at especially religious groups, but even culturally across society, you'll see this kind of concept that once a woman has grown up, there's this ideal that, okay, the purpose is marriage, the purpose is children, the purpose is running the household, and all of those things that, we would call that traditional, in quotation marks, family pattern, right? And what happens with that is then the female gets sort of sucked into this belief system that, okay, well, now this is my job. My job is to take care of the kids, take care of my spouse, take care of the household, take care of all these other things. And then it starts to branch out even further. It's to take care of all of these things in my church community and in my school, my children's school community and in my neighborhood. And you start to see this branch out to all of the different areas, anywhere that there's a social system in which that woman is involved. There's this sort of idea that women are in charge of that it's their job to take care of all of that. And the problem that then arises is there's 24 hours in a day. And when you only have 24 hours in a day, but it's your job to take care of everybody else all of the time, there's not really room for you.
Or even thought, really, about you.
Yes.
Needs
you see
and
all
wants.
The time. Yeah. We're not even to that point. We're like, oh my gosh, did I shower today? Oh, right. Or did I actually eat, right? You're so busy doing all the things for everyone else. And it's really, it's heralded as a sign of an amazing woman, right? You see this church leaders will stand up and extol the virtues of their spouse or of other women. And what do people say? Right? Wow, she's always serving everybody else. She never thinks about herself. She's always
nonstop.
Yes, nonstop. Yeah. She's always doing things for other people and taking care of stuff, and
we applaud.
Never have to worry. Yes. And it's heralded as this incredible virtue, and that's a major problem because that viewpoint stifles a person's self, right?
Right. And usually all parts.
Right.
All of them.
You don't get to sort of decide
Right.
what you turn on and turn off, when it comes to that.
Right.
It becomes this global ideal that this is my job, is to take care of everyone else and to not have the wants or needs, A friend of mine was talking about a conversation that a family member of hers had with her daughter. And her daughter said, "Mom, I don't ever want to be a mom." And that really surprised her mother, thinking, "Oh, am I, why is she getting this viewpoint, and I thought I've, talked about how great being a mother is and different things like that." And so she said, "Well, why don't you want to be a mom?" And the little girl said, "Because moms never get the donut."
Huh.
And that's just embodies this idea that moms are always last.
Either
moms always
she's
do the hard
last
stuff.
or she's trying to keep up an image, and so she's not eating. It's kind of the same thing, just from a different angle, right? Mm-hmm. All these expectations and...
Yes. The expectations that you have to be perfect and you have to do everything, right? But there's also very much this concept of if there's only 5 donuts and there's 6 of us...
Right. Which is a motherly thing for sure.
Right. Mom gives up the donut.
Yeah.
I'll go without, right? And that is a real concept. And so...
Is that the Saturday Night Live Christmas, who was it? Kristen Wiig, I think, has a skit where everybody's opening these gifts and they're amazing. And when it comes back to her, she's like, "Oh, I got a robe." And they keep opening more gifts and better gifts. And it comes back to her and she's like, "Oh, I don't have any other gifts." It's the skit that's kind of making fun of how moms just really don't get hooked up on Christmas like everybody else.
Because it's their job. It's their job to go out and get everything for everybody else and to manage the gifts for the entire extended family. And they're sacrificing, and then everyone kind of forgets about them. Right. And so then you see a lot of the, well, okay, then I'll get myself something, or, different things like that, instead of, well, what's going on that no one else around you sees you as worth getting a gift, right? Sees you as worth their time and energy to provide something for you.
Yeah.
So, again, we see this even in household chores, all of these different things. It's that female responsibility. It's what's phrased the she-fault parent. You're not the default parent, you're the she-fault parent. So it's everything kind of comes back on you. We see a lot where, if you're the parent that works outside the home, oftentimes, the male will go and then they can kind of come and go as they please. But if she wants to leave or do something, she has to, do all this mental energy and time and work getting a sitter or making a list for her spouse. These are the things that need to happen. He has
no idea what all needs to be done.
Yes, or where anything is located.
No one's going to games or doing anything else if it's up to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so finding that balance again is really important. And bringing both people together to work on that. But again, it's not just the men that are putting women in this position. It is really common for women to put themselves in that position, right? And for women not to see themselves as their time being as valuable as a spouse that works, or a spouse that works and they're making more. Or even you will see fairly commonly still, even if the female partner is making more, when it comes to household things, they still don't see their time as valuable as their spouse. So these are some concepts. These are these big, high-level concepts that then affect so much
I was going to say,
of life.
With that foundation, what about
how does
sexuality?
Sex apply, and how does
where this is going, but...
yes, fit into this? So when you're in this space of not having wants or needs or desires, of not being as important, of not placing value on the things that you are passionate about, kind of losing yourself in motherhood or in a marriage, you are losing yourself. You are not a whole person anymore. And that is a problem, right?
It is, yep.
And that affects then how you see yourself. It affects your self-esteem, your self-worth. If you only exist to create and maintain the existence of others, then where is your worth? Where is what you have to contribute because of who you are as an individual? Where are your passions and your drive and what you want to contribute to the world? And those things don't have to be big, crazy, I'm going to be the corporate head of, Fortune 500 company. It doesn't have to be like that, right? It can even be small things like, I really like to paint and I want to incorporate this into my life. Mm-hmm. Even if I never sell a painting ever, right? What are things that you're passionate about? Where can you find yourself and not get lost in this good women don't have wants, needs, or desires? When you're a passionate person, when you have this confidence in yourself, when you have this self-worth, self-esteem, when you know who you are more attractive. Mm-hmm. You have more space in your life because you've been filling your own cup instead of running on empty all the time. And a lot of the things that we notice where women struggle with sexuality is because there's so much on their plate that they don't have the space to really step into that role and feel sexy because they haven't showered or brushed their teeth all day because they've been running kids around.
It's kind of funny because you hear, well, if he wants to turn her on, he should vacuum.
Uh-huh.
And you think it's just because, he's helping. Well, it's also taking things off of her plate.
Yes.
And it gives her more energy and effort to do or think about something else.
It's demonstrating that her time is valuable as well. Mm-hmm. Like, I will do this because we are a partnership. It's helping her feel more connected.
Yeah.
It's doing a lot of different things, not just like, oh, this is going to be attractive.
Yeah.
Like, it's filling a lot of different roles and checking a lot of different boxes that helps her to feel more connected, more valued, and more seen in all of the things that she's doing. So it's good on both sides, right? When you are this whole person, you are more confident, you have more self-esteem, you have more space in your life because you've been filling your own cup as well. and that makes you, gives you space to be more sexual, but it also makes you more attractive as well. We are drawn to people who are passionate about life, who are meeting their
Right.
needs,
Yep.
and taking care of themselves.
Definitely.
So it's kind of this both and space. And there are definitely situations where on both sides of that, women are saying, I'm not as attracted. And men are saying, I'm not as attracted as well, because there's no, she sort of disappeared. When I married her, she had, all these things she was doing, and she had all
Right.
these
Because you're
goals.
attracted to her identity, and she's a lot more whole typically
Yes.
than after children and everything else. And so it does change.
Yes. Yes. So we want to make sure you're not losing that. And if you have, look into ways that you can change things and step back into that role of your own identity, knowing who you are. So many women, I talk to them years after children have been born, and they're like, I don't even know who I am anymore, right? So finding that and doing that internal work and finding what you're passionate about and incorporating some of that into your life, meeting your own needs and your own wants, your own desires, being ambitious. Those are all fabulous things that then give you space to be more sexual. So once you have that and you are starting to incorporate that into your life a little bit more, the other aspect of that we want to talk about today is this concept that you can be sexual.
Right.
You can be a good woman and be a very sexual being. And this can be about you.
Which, if you pause and just ask yourself if you are, what that looks like, what that feels like, I wonder what it would be.
Right. It can be a struggle for a lot of our clients to feel like, oh, I am a sexual being. I enjoy being a sexual being. And what does that look like for me? It can, for some women, actually feel scary.
I imagine. Yep.
And this is an important concept to really wrap your head around and to start moving into that space, because you get to be a sexual being just like your spouse, right? You get to enjoy sex because it relieves stress. Enjoy sex because it's fun. Enjoy sex because it's connecting. And a lot of women don't feel like that. They don't believe that sex is for me too. It's sex is for my spouse.
Right. And if you think about maybe patterns that you have in your relationship, it's probably been reinforced a lot. I talk to a lot of guys where the sense is, if it is a special occasion,
yes,
or you're going on a trip, you're going to stay in a hotel, let's say, or a birthday, certainly anniversaries, that's when it's going to happen. Well, those are like for sure times usually that's going to happen. But why is that like when those things are going to happen? It's for him, and there's an expectation that if you're going on a trip or something,
yes.
then. But that's an interesting approach to this.
Yeah.
So it's kind of feels like it's for them. And that's what they'll say, is it feels like it's expected and it's for me. And
yes.
It's not like, oh, I hear my wife say, Valentine's Day is coming up, I'm getting excited. Yeah, how many guys hear that?
Yes.
Maybe if they are, it's for something they're going to receive or a gift or an activity or something. But
right.
When you're talking sex, I don't know that very many guys ever hear that.
Yeah. And that can be a frustrating thing, right? We talk about, if you're both doing something, if you're both engaged in an activity that you've decided you're going to do together, how fun is it for you if the other person doesn't really want to be there.
Right.
If they are like, this is just not really my thing.
Every
I'm
guy
only
listening
doing
is
this
like, I
'cause
can
you
relate.
Want me to? Yeah. I'm doing this out of duty because I'm supposed to.
Yep.
Right. It's not a super exciting thing. Like you don't look forward to it as much.
Right.
And that's important. That's important to know, because I think a lot of times women who are struggling in this area think, well, yeah, it's fine. We'll just get things over with and do it because they want to or whatever, not realizing it's not as good of an experience for your spouse when you're doing it out of that sense of duty.
Right. For sure.
And I
hear this all the time.
Yes, I was going to say, you probably hear this too, that it's just not as pleasant of an experience.
Even if the wife or the woman thinks, well, this is what he likes about it, you talk to him, and what he likes about it is that it's her and it's engaging.
Yes.
So.
Yes. We want you to be a part of this process and to enjoy it and to want to be there and all of that. And so as you're thinking about that and just kind of thinking about this concept of, can sex be for me? If that feels either scary or you feel some aversion to that, or just kind of a blank space or a why space, maybe that's something that you want to look at and consider. Yeah. And especially if you've done some of this other work around your wants and your needs and feeling really fulfilled as a person and feeling like that whole complete person. If you're still struggling around that, you may want to look at that, and you may want to maybe consider going and talking to someone about that, because every woman should get to feel like sex is for her.
It's kind of like every woman should get to enjoy sex.
Yes.
And why not every bit as much or more, like they're built for, than men?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. And I think as we talk, I think next time we're going to talk about some of those differences and what the sexual response cycle can look like, and all of these different things that can kind of help you understand this concept that David is saying about they could enjoy it potentially even more, right, than men. Let's look at what that looks like, right? And so we'll do that next time. But start to kind of get used to that idea if that feels like a fairly foreign idea, because you should get to be as sexual and enjoy sexuality just as much.
Right.
It doesn't mean that you're, bad, and we talked about this before. Sometimes it's like good women don't enjoy sex. If you enjoy sex, you're a slut, kind of a concept that has been running around culturally for many years, right? But really, you should get to be and enjoy sex.
Right. Absolutely.
And look forward to that and be excited about having sex in your life. So stay tuned. We'll talk some more about this next time.
Thanks for joining us.
See ya. Thank you for listening to Two Therapists Talking. We look forward to sharing more conversations with you. Connect with us at twotherapisttalking.com or email podcast@twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.